No, guys, this reminds me a lot. You ever seen the very scary movie, The Exorcist?
Oh, I think it's the funniest movie I've
ever
ever
seen.
seen.
That is.
The music is beautiful.
Have you ever heard of the Exorcism of Roland Doe?
No, I haven't.
Sounds like a good Irish lad. He does.
So the Exorcism of Roland Doe. This is a story
That's a great rapper name, dude.
It is.
Roland Doe, man.
Roland Doe, baby. Rolling the dough.
It is a fake name to provide anonymity to the person that the exorcism was actually performed
like a
on.
DOE,
So,
like Doe.
this-
Like Jane Doe.
Yes. Yeah, Jane Doe. It's Roland Doe. A lot of people
The
think
coolest of the Does.
the coolest.
The young
Jane and John are just kind of
The
like
young
whatever.
Doe.
the Rebel Doe.
The most ginger of the Does.
Roland.
So this case is also often referred to as the Exorcism of Robbie Mannheim. These are both fake names. So this refers to a child who was born in 1935 approximately, and to a staunch German Lutheran family of the Lutheran religion. And this was in Prince George County in Maryland, which is just on the outskirts of D.C. in the town of Cottage City. In the late 40s, flash forward 13, 14 years later to 1949, this child grows up in a relatively normal family. He has an aunt whom he is very fond of. Let's just call her Harriet.
Good.
She was a spiritualist. So as you know, spiritualists have the philosophy that one has a soul, and when one dies, it goes on to the other side. But those still existing in this realm, in this plane, are able to somehow communicate with them.
So it's kind of like matter, what is it? God damn it. Energy can't be destroyed.
Or
It can only be
Conservation of energy.
transferred. Thank you, Newton.
points.
Do I got points? Finally,
Buried
this is the first
next
one?
to Hawkins.
But think of it in a metaphysical sense. So famous spiritualists include the author of The Lost World. What was his name? Arthur Conan Doyle. Think the Order of the Golden Dawn. Harry Houdini was a big proponent against spiritualism. He tried to debunk psychics and mediums constantly.
Spiritualism is like a blanket term, though, right? Like it's
a lot of ways.
It is.
Right.
So his Aunt Harriet, this child's Aunt Harriet, was very close to him. He was an only child, so he didn't have many playmates. Most of his playmates were adults. He was very fond of his aunt. She was a spiritualist. She introduced him to sort of the occult arts, specifically the Ouija board.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
And this is okay. So this is 1949.
Mm-hmm.
Is this pre or post Milton Bradley getting involved with the Ouija board?
Why are you always on the Milton Bradley?
Because it seems so stupid that it would be like a channel to the other world,
pretty sure Cass
produced
has
in a
some sort of-
factory somewhere by Milton Bradley. Like it annoys me.
Like Illuminati, Milton Bradley.
I want to get to the like
Were they
core of
originally-
why the Ouija board is so
when
scary.
did the Ouija board come into
was it
fruition?
was it a thing before Milton Bradley?
Think,
Milton
think
Bradley was
late 19th century, and when it really becomes
That's spooky.
I think we're working on a
That's a scary
really killer
thing.
movie script right now. When you think about this, where that the
The
demons
origin of
actually
the Ouija board?
influenced Milton and Bradley. To
Both of
bring,
them.
Yeah, they had to get both of them. Milton
I
was
thought
a
it was
holdout
one
for
guy.
a while.
I thought Milton Bradley was his name.
Milton and Bradley.
Well, John Milton wrote the book
Paradise
Lost.
but that was in the 18th century. Late in 1800s, early 20th century is when the Ouija board first became, I would think.
And so what is it called? Like the planchette? The planchette and oh, God, I
Psychic
can't remember.
reading, something like that.
So it did predate Milton Bradley, is what we're saying.
Regardless, so this child, Roland Doe, his aunt passes away. And shortly thereafter, at the age of 13, he starts to go a little queer. Get a little strange. He exhibits behaviors that people can't explain. When he's in a room, inanimate objects move on their own. Pictures of Jesus rattle on the walls. He starts to display cuts on his body inexplicably. And generally just shows an aversion to religious icons. It's at this time that the family's pastor, their Lutheran pastor, whose first name, ironically enough, was also Luther Miles Schulze.
Oh,
Luther the Lutheran. That's awesome.
he had a calling.
They implore him for
Yeah,
help.
he most certainly did.
And he observes the boy and thinks that it might possibly be demonic possession. So he, in turn, arranges another priest, one Edward Albert Hughes, a Roman Catholic priest, to study the boy. And he, in turn, also suspects demonic possession. So he reaches out to the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. in order to be allowed to perform the rites of exorcism.
This guy's like 10 fingers, 10 toes. Batshit crazy.
This is the problem again with the research methods of the church, in that they're like, I don't know, better call some more church people.
Exactly.
And then the higher up church guy's like, shit, I don't know, better call another church guy. Like,
bring him in.
Get a scientist in at some point. Take some blood. Like, let's get some like physiological information on young Robert.
They're mortal enemies. They're mortal enemies, the scientists and the priests. They battle as one.
If this was 1949, blood, DNA, right? Genes was already kind of
not quite yet. I believe
60s.
that Walter and was it Walter and Crick?
Yeah.
With DNA, it wasn't until 1961 was when they won the Nobel Prize, I think, for that. But in regards to education and scientific backing, over 48 witnesses were involved with this case specifically, and 9 of those were Jesuit priests. And so the Jesuits are a specific sect of Christianity known as the Society of Jesus, but they place very, very heavy emphasis on education and on ecumenical studies. So the correlating of different sects of Christianity working together, of commonalities between the faiths.
What does ecumenical mean?
That's exactly what I mean. It's taking different denominations and trying to bring unity among them in Christianity, uniting into one original faith.
My man.
Cool.
And yes, so the Jesuits place heavy, heavy emphasis on education, on research, on scientific backing. And so the fact that there were that many priests involved as witnesses to this case gives a little bit more...
I stand corrected, Nick Spry. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, sure, because this is the, to kind of dumb it down, this is the entire front office saying, whoa, this is something we need to, need to all study and research, like all hands on deck kind of thing.
So, again, back to Edward Albert Hughes, the Roman Catholic priest. He performs a series of exorcisms on the boy at Georgetown University Hospital, a Jesuit institution.
And that was Maryland?
And this is in Maryland in 1949. So during the exorcism, the boy, as is typical in many exorcisms, and you have to remember that it is sort of a series of rituals and not just one session, the boy is restrained because he had become violent. He was seizing, he was shaking, he was speaking in a voice that was not his own.
Always.
Wow.
Yes.
So an exorcism doesn't necessarily mean the exorcising of the demon. It is the ritual to attempt the exorcism of the demon.
I think it applies to both. You can use it for the specific instance as well as the overall overreaching.
This is our project. We need to get the demons out.
It refers to one instance of ritual as well as the process of exorcisms.
Okay.
During this exorcism, he was restrained on a mattress, and it began to shake heavily. Somehow, Doe managed to slip one of his hands, reached under the mattress to the bed springs, pulled loose a spring, and used it as a weapon, and slashed the Hughes so badly on his arm that he had to be rushed to a hospital that he was already in, to another part of the hospital to get stitches.
That's
the
very
exorcism had to be
intense.
Can we
halted.
admit that's badass? That's pretty badass. I mean...
So that might have been like some kind of artery that
Could have been.
opened.
It was severe enough that things had to immediately stop.
Damn!
And it's like some lethal weapon shit.
Wow.
So you're saying you're too old for this shit?
I'm too old for this shit.
Forgive me if I step on your toes, but did they say anywhere in this account how long his hand was below into the mattress to get the spring out?
Most of the stories about Roland Doe come from the letters of one Father Bishop, that his papers were found, his documents were found after his passing many years later. In fact, a lot of the accounts in which eventually William Peter Blatty wrote the book The Exorcist, which was made into a movie in 1973, 2 years later. But there was another book that came out in 1978 by Thomas B. Allen called Possessed. And this was considered to be the greatest resource upon this specific case. And a lot of his research came from these letters. So little is known specifically on this instance. And so after this exorcism failed, it was noted that the child's behavior worsened and that somehow the words Louis appeared upon his chest. The family took this as a sign from God, and they traveled to St. Louis where
Who are these people?
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
That's awesome, dude. We gotta go to Lewis.
What was the thought process?
Mom, it's spelled Lewis.
St. Louis, I ain't never heard nothing else.
Mimi in St. Louis. Judy
She runs out the door.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Yes.
Points?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
it wasn't an arbitrary choice.
Ah, damn it.
This is where Father Hughes had already been talking to one Father Raymond J. Bishop, who was a professor at the St. Louis University, the ones whose papers were recovered that were largely used as research. So he in turn spoke to William S. Bowdern, and was probably the biggest active priest on this case, and performed the most exorcism. He was granted eventually permission from the diocese, from the Archbishop, to perform another exorcism in St. Louis at the Alexian Brothers Hospital in South St. Louis, Missouri.
So this guy was vetted. He was vetted. Yeah,
Too much
like,
red tape,
okay.
Archdiocese. Like, have faith in your men. Let them perform as they desire. Like, don't you got to submit fucking tickets?
cap in hand over heart. He goes, "You mean I'm going to the actual bedside?" No, I'm so sorry. You're going to another hospital. All right.
Another one? Well, at least if he slashes me with a fucking bed spring, I'll be
A lot better than that other
in
cuck.
treatment.
Yeah.
One would think so.
Archdiocese
And so,
cuck.
along with
Your mother's going to freak out.
I built all of that in.
during this series of exorcisms performed, and it totaled over 30 rituals that they performed upon Roland. With Father Bowdern was also Father Halloran, his assistant, and Father Bishop. In his diary, there are several quotes that detail the instances of these rituals, and one of them dated the 18th of March, 1949, is, quote, "Next, the fathers began the litany of saints, and as indicated in the exorcism ritual, in the course of the litany, the mattress began to shake. Roland was awake. The shaking ceased when Father Bowdern blessed the bed with holy water. The prayers of the exorcism were continued, and Roland was seized violently so that he began to struggle with his pillow and the bed clothing. The arms, leg, and head of Roland had to be held by 3 men." And another entry, in April, these rituals took place over the course of several months, 2 to 3 months, actually.
At what point do you call it? Like, they're like 15, 20 deep. They're like, no, we got it this time. Like, come on, dude. Like, we've done it.
There's
We've
people
done it.
who have been experiencing these rituals for years.
You just have to keep
What?
going.
Especially if the theologian career is yours, then you are constantly.
I agree. That makes sense. You're not going to be like, all right, well, shit, he got me. Like, walk away. Like, you're like, no, all right, number 28. Here
So
we go.
exorcists are like the chiropractor of the religious world. It's like, no, I just gotta keep on working on this.
Yes.
Gotta keep
This
on,
is a project.
This is a
We'll figure it
project.
out.
But that's also...
How do you call that in? Is that like short-term disability or sick day, vacation day? Like, how do
I'm
you call
possessed,
that
so I'm not going to come
in? Yeah.
in.
Well, how does that work?
How would you do it, Angela? Because, like, obviously, like, you got the first day out of the way. You're like, I don't want to start rumors, but you might be possessed.
I feel like that's like short-term disability. You don't know.
I would imagine that would be the same thing.
I've been working here for a while. I want you guys to know that I'm gluten-free. I'm really into CrossFit, and I'm demon-possessed.
Yeah.
And but I'm working on it.
Sounds like we got it down to about 28, and we're whittling it down. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That works out.
Could be acute. Could be chronic.
I'll let
We
you
don't
know.
I'll let you know.
I'll let you know.
A cute demon.
So, it is during these sessions that, another quote, "The word hello was printed on his chest and thigh, upon the explanation of the apostles becoming priests and receiving our Lord at the Last Supper. Scratches appeared from Roland, hips to his ankles in heavy lines, seemingly as to protest Holy Communion."
Like from the inside out?
Yes.
Oh! Was it spelled backwards or was it...
Hello?
correct?
No, spelled legibly. Obviously, that they weren't like,
hello.
what is he saying? Othello.
That's-
Olha, olehe.
It's awfully polite of you, Beelzebub.
That was just
Hello
hell.
to you as well.
Oh.
Well, it's also reported that the devil's face appeared upon his thigh. During this period of the ritual, Roland broke Halloran's nose.
Damn.
How?
What?
And this is a 14-year-old child that is full-on breaking this man's nose. They do not say exactly how the nose was broken, but it is recorded to fact that Halloran's nose was indeed broken.
And again, we're at a hospital, and they're going to, like, There's records, right?
Yes.
Guy had to
That
be
is
admitted,
actually recorded.
Had a broken
on file.
nose.
This is a safe space. They have guards. They have personnel. They have some kind of security system in place.
The Catholic Church does not take this very lightly.
They do not.
You have to get higher up approval in order for this to even go down. And the fact that this occurred at all is treated very, very seriously.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this goes back millennia.
Yes, it does.
Before humankind.
Like the Knights of the Templar type of feel.
The mythology of demons being free roaming and needing and possessing, yes, goes back pre-humankind, but you got to have a human in order to be possessed. But animals
Which
could
came
be.
You don't
first,
think
the demon or
dinosaurs
the
can be
human?
possessed, bro?
No, animals
have
can
them.
be
Oh,
in
that'd be
fact
badass.
possessed.
Yeah.
Possessed dinosaurs?
Possessed T-Rex, man. I want to see it.
There we
So
go.
eventually, the possession came to an end with the closure of the ritual, and it is noted that at one point Roland screamed out in a different voice altogether, not his own and not the voice of the demons. Satan, I am Saint Michael. I command you to leave this body now. And then he seized so violently, he passed out.
St. Michael stepped in.
He stepped in.
Wow.
Nice, Saint Michael.
Wow.
Good on
Yes.
you.
Go
Well
you.
done. Shit.
Can you tell us a little bit about Saint Michael? Do you have any of that?
Saint Michael isn't he the angel of death?
I thought he was an archangel.
He is an archangel.
Michael leads God's armies against Satan's forces in the book of Revelation, where during the war in heaven, he defeats Satan.
And so that would be really that's
okay,
badass.
that's kind of
Yes.
cool.
Michael came in, stepped up, and said, "This is what I do."
Points.
So, after this period where the boy has lost consciousness, he comes to and exclaims in his own voice, he is gone.
So he
He's
finally,
gone.
Yeah,
The boy
The
says,
boy
"I'm
in his
gone?"
Roland wakes up and says he is gone.
He is gone. Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
And yet, he retained no memory of the possession and has no idea what actually occurred.
Saint
So he
Michael.
came out of it unscathed after months and months. of
Months.
this.
Right.
Multiple exorcisms.
Multiple, over 30 exorcisms.
That's a lot of exorcisms.
And-
Wait, what year was this again?
This was 1949. Many people suspect there is a certain someone that this case is about, and this person actually went on to have a long career in the United States government, married and had children, still has no recollection of the event, and lived most of his life in Maryland.
And this was someone who was born in 1935?
35.
Wow.
So they would be how old now in 2018?
I'm
83.
sorry,
So
83.
they've kept the identity.
They have kept this identity. There is no definite concrete corroboration.
Okay.
The one person who knows the true identity said that they would never give it up. And we'll leave it at that. But guys,
That's why.
Oh, Fritz.
That's why I'm so scared.